The Justice Department has for the first time settled with a corrupt mortgage mill and taken the money not as fines but as restitution for the actual victims. In our fourth story on the countdown, the Attorney General announcing a $335 million settlement with Bank of America for racial and ethnic bias. According to Eric Holder, the bank's countrywide financial unit overcharged black and Hispanic borrowers before Bank of America bought Countrywide in 2008.
This settlement will compensate the more than 200,000 African American and Hispanic borrowers who were victims of discriminatory conduct, including more than 10,000 African American or Hispanic borrowers who, despite the fact that they were qualified for prime loans, were steered into subprime loans. Now, subprime borrowers often are subjected to penalties and higher interest rates and have a greater likelihood of default and foreclosure than those who have prime loans.
A Washington Post report called Bank of America's purchase of Countrywide an albatross, triggering billions of dollars in lawsuits, legal battles, and settlements. The bank chief's executive said in a conference call earlier this year, "There aren't many days that I get up and think positively about Countrywide transactions." Next to Holder stood Illinois Attorney General Lisa Madigan, who had aggressively pursued Countrywide. She later spoke to PBS.
Compensation structure was such that you would make more money if you put people into a poor quality, higher price loan. Was that if you were African American or Latino, you were, 3 times as likely to be put into a subprime loan than if you were a similarly credit situated white borrower. The wheels of justice sometimes spin slowly, but luckily they still spin. The fraudulent subprime loans that Countrywide issued and others issued, they're really at the heart of the collapse of our economy.
Let's turn to Rolling Stone contributing editor, Countdown contributor Matt Taibbi. Matt, good evening.
Good evening.
That dollar figure, is that more important as a practical thing, or is the fact that it's restitution rather than just another settlement?
Well, it's symbolically important, definitely, that the actual victims of the financial crisis in this instance were actually going to get some money. But in general, this is good news, but it's not a world-shaking event because the individuals responsible are still not going to jail. No individuals are paying fines, and it's a good headline. It's a nice start, but until we see all the other practitioners of this fraud getting punished, I don't know how significant it is.
As a good start, is there some suggestion it might be a turning point for the government? No longer this process from those directly regulating the banking and mortgage industries of just accepting, as we described them once, legal bribes in exchange to get the prosecutions canceled against these mortgage pushers?
Well, I don't know how much of a turning point it can be. I mean, it's 200,000 victims for a single company, which tells you that there are probably 1 million or more victims out there from other mortgage companies, and we don't know, is the government going to go after any of that activity at all? What this is a highly symbolic act against the very biggest practitioner, which is a now defunct company. Whether they're going to go after active companies is another matter entirely.
200,000 cases in which Hispanic or African American would-be homeowners were targeted. How prevalent was the ethnic racial element to predatory lending?
Oh, it was huge. I interviewed some black and minority homeowners who were put into subprime loans, and they thought they had regular fixed income mortgages. This was an industry-wide practice where, because of the incentives built into the system, the brokers were encouraged to put people into more dangerous and more risky loans, even if they qualified for safe ones. And as a result, all across the country, people were put into these very, very risky subprime loans. Also, the banks themselves made more money when they resold these securities on the open market to investors and pension funds and insurance companies. So they had the incentive to create these risky subprime loans too. So all the incentives were wrong, and that's why all these people were put into these bad loans.
What does the government, Matt, have in place now to prevent what BOA just had to pay $335 million for their subsidiary doing?
Well, this has always been illegal. I mean, you can't discriminate against somebody. You can't knowingly put someone into a bad loan when they qualify for a better one. You can't hide the derogatory aspects of a loan that you're selling to a person, and that's always been against the law. That we have a Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that ostensibly is there to protect people from this sort of activity. But the reality is, there's so many people out there who are getting mortgages, and so many brokers out there. There's no way that we can actually prevent this stuff from happening. We just have to rely on these companies to behave better, and we just don't know how reliable they are.
Yeah, once again, we don't. Rolling Stone contributing editor and Countdown contributor Matt Taibbi. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
There is not enough evidence for a criminal complaint, but a woman conservative blogger told a harrowing tale in a New Jersey courtroom about the danger she felt from video doctor James O'Keefe. Details ahead on Countdown.